Children on the playground are so collaborative and imaginative. It's amazing when you hear that sound, it's just heartwarming. We don't start off that way. We start off as infants with this instinct for self-preservation. We have to fight for what we want, what we need to live. But then we quickly learn that that's not the best way, that there's a better way, more fun. Over the next 3 to 4 years, we learn to be very collaborative. We learn to work together. And then we quickly unlearn that. And we learn to be competitive, to fight for the best grades, to fight for the best job. What it is that you want in your life. Well, we're here to talk about open source software, but that's not really the point. I want you to think about times when you felt collaborative and when you felt a need to work together to accomplish something, and a time when you needed to be competitive. Let me take a moment and let me take you back to when I was 9. When I was 9 years old, I played indoor soccer. I was a very competitive athlete. I loved being out there with my team. We were collaborative. We had a great time together on the field. But this one particular day that I'll take you back to, we were on the field, and I heard the whistle blow. The opponent started charging towards us. My teammate slide tackled him. There's a free kick in front of the goal, and I'm on defense. So I remember vividly standing on the wall. I was ready, my heart racing, felt the adrenaline rushing, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. What I want to share with you is about open source software values. Now, many of you may not know what open source software is, even though you use it every day. Many of the websites that you use on a daily basis are built on open source software. Facebook, Google, Wikipedia, they all use open source software. The alternative to open source software is proprietary software. You've seen applications like Microsoft Internet Explorer versus Google Chrome. This is an example that hopefully a lot of you can identify with. Internet Explorer is a proprietary software package that's developed by Microsoft. The motives of shareholders of the company, that's what drives the product forward. Google Chrome, on the other hand, started as an open source project, Chromium. Chromium is developed by a diverse group of people all over the world who want to contribute to this project, frequently not getting paid and not charging for their software. These open source developers find a passion of theirs, and they contribute very openly of their time and their talents. So many of you who 5 years ago were working, you would work in Internet Explorer. It was the most popular browser 5 years ago. Now we see that Google Chrome is almost twice as popular as Internet Explorer. A majority of those who are watching this and hearing me speak, you use Google Chrome rather than Internet Explorer. And I would argue that the main reason that is, the popularity has grown because of its open source values. So what are those values that really drive this open source community, this group all over the world? First, I see abundance, an abundance mindset. Now, abundance is the opposite of scarcity. A scarcity mindset says that we have a fixed pie of opportunity and resources out there. If you want your opportunity, you want your slice of the pie, you have to fight for it. You have to beat someone else. They have to lose so that you can win. It's a zero-sum game. There's another way. Abundance says we can grow that pie. We can grow opportunity for everyone so that there's abundant opportunity. But the way that we have to do that is by collaborating, by bringing everyone's ideas and contributions together to grow opportunity. Now, I'm a free market capitalist. I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. I am not advocating for a socialist society. I'm saying that there is value to collaboration. There is a much better way, in fact, a more competitive position than direct competition. There's a way to have this abundance mindset and work together to actually improve yourself and lead with your strengths while leaving room for others' strengths. Elsewhere in the world, we see this in open government. In our own community, all over the United States and other places in the world, we see open governments not leading just by opening their information, the transparency of information and financial records. Open government is really about open collaboration. It's about taking a proprietary group of elected and appointed officials and them seeking input from the community, collaboration and contributions from the community. That collaborative process is what defines open government. And it's what makes some governments far more productive and valuable than others. Now, it's not easy, especially for the government, to seek outside input. Now, there are laws, there are regulations, there are lots of reasons why someone might choose not to. But I think that another value that we see in the open source community can help us to understand this better, and that's vulnerability. Now, vulnerability is not weakness. I don't want you to see that as a synonym. It's really more about leading with your strengths. It's understanding what you're really good at and putting your work out there, putting your best work out there for people to see and criticize and build upon. Now, instead of vulnerability, you could be very prideful and you could say, I can build this better than anyone, and only my contributions are going to go into my product and my business, my work. Or you can have vulnerability and you can understand that you have strengths that you need to build upon with other people's strengths. In the open source community, we see this done everywhere. There are lots of places that people see that there's an opportunity for input. One way is in something we call a pull request. When the maintainer of an open source development project wants to allow others to contribute, another developer can write code, develop a feature, and then submit a pull request for their code to be pulled into the main project. When that maintainer reviews their code and they merge it in, that now becomes part of that product for everyone to use and everyone to build upon. Instead of being critical, it's really a great compliment. It's a way of saying, I want to contribute to the same passion that you have. I want to grow your product to be even better. I don't need to compete with it, we can work together. Now, in my life, I've seen vulnerability. If you would believe it, when I was a teenager, I had not yet learned vulnerability and humility. I was still trying to figure that out. I remember one day when I got to college, I was in chemistry lab. I hadn't figured it out by then, even not getting into all the Ivy League schools that I applied to. I chose to go to Ohio State University, and I was pre-med. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to live a life that was going to be highly successful. I had told my community, I told my friends, my family, everyone, I was going to be a physician, I was going to go to the best university, I was going to make a lot of money, I was going to have this great family life. I was your typical teenager, sorry, folks. I knew what I wanted, and I knew how I was going to get there. That changed as I figured out where I wanted to go. The Ohio State University provided me incredible opportunities that I don't think I would have had elsewhere. But it took me understanding, having that vulnerability, understanding that there are things I know and things I don't know. And I need to put myself out there. And I had to tell everyone, yeah, I know I applied to all the Ivy League schools, but I chose Ohio State, and I think that's going to be the best school. It's much more competitive than it was when I got in as well. But then in chemistry lab, I was pre-med, remember? There's a lot of chemistry. No one really told me that there was that much chemistry in pre-med. I remember one day vividly when I was in chemistry lab, and I think the solution was the wrong color. It started bubbling when it shouldn't have. I never blew anything up. That was the good news. But I had met a really wonderful girl at the time, and I said, you know what, this is not working. I took my goggles off, turned the Bunsen burner off. I walked out of the classroom, and I called my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And I said, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not my passion. I love engineering. I'm having a great time in engineering. I want to have a family. I want to get married and have kids someday. This is not going to be the path for me. And that took a great deal of vulnerability to admit that. I had told everyone, remember, that I wanted to be a doctor. I had to know that my strengths were different than what I originally thought. So what I did, I dropped pre-med. I was no longer going to be a physician, and I love the path that I've taken as an entrepreneur and an engineer. And I have more time for my family. When my 5-year-old daughter was asking me to practice this talk, she said, and you have time for me. That's why I did it. That's why I did it. I followed my passion. Now, I have a great deal of respect for physicians and people who are able to get through all of that school, through pre-med, through med school, internships, residencies. My best friend is a neurosurgery resident. I couldn't do it. That wasn't my passion. So as we identify our passions, the next step we have to take is initiative. This is a value that I see very strongly in the open source community. There is no open source project that would have started or would have continued if it weren't for initiative. Someone has to decide to be that first one who's going to start the project, and every time a contribution is made, someone has to take initiative to take that next step. We see it all over the place through language translations, new features, bug fixes. There are lots of places in open source software that we see initiative. So now, I'd like to take you back to when I was 9, playing soccer. Remember, I'm standing on the wall. I'm stiff, my heart's racing, the adrenaline's rushing. I'm on the wall waiting for that kick. Our opponent starts charging towards the ball. He kicks the ball, I feel an impact on the front of my head, and then the head hitting the ground. Now, this isn't uncommon. This happens a lot in soccer. Those of you who have played soccer, you know that this happens. But what happened that day was unique and very unexpected. Over the next 4 days, I would find out that impact kinked a blood vessel. It killed 1/3 of my cerebellum. I'd had a stroke at the age of 9. I couldn't stand up or walk. The whole left side of my body had lost its coordination. not your typical soccer injury. So I share this with you because I want you to know what kind of insurmountable challenges I've seen that I've tried to tackle. And now at age 9, I was not an open source software developer. It took me till at least age 12 to do that. But at age 9, I see a lot of parallels in the values. I was in the hospital for 5 weeks. I was in intensive care, neurosurgery, rehab. I had more than 6 months of rehab out of the hospital. And these open source values, I see lots of parallels, are what allowed me to recover. My friends and family helped me immensely. I had to have an abundance mindset, understanding there are opportunities that are no longer available to me, but I can find more opportunities. I can get collaboration from the community. Not everything's for me. I have to know my strengths and know where I need someone else to come in and help. I had to have vulnerability. I couldn't stand up or walk. There were a lot of things I couldn't do. That vulnerability was an easy one for me, and I had to seek support. My best friend pushed me in my wheelchair on the playground. He was a great athlete. He could have been out there playing, but that collaboration helped me out. My brother broke his knee. The night that I went to the hospital, I am sorry to my parents, he broke his knee skiing. But he didn't care about that. He was begging to come see me in the hospital. That's the kind of collaboration that we need. That's the kind of thing that those kids on the playground know and love. 6 months after my injury, I was able to go back to my neurosurgeon for my appointment and show him videos of me rollerblading and riding my bike, and it was through that collaboration that I was able to do that. So that's why I bring this to you. It's something that I think can change lives. It can help us do what in the open source community I consider a healthy disregard for the impossible. Taking something that's an impossible challenge that doctors or the public, your friends, your family tell you is impossible, and through collaboration, through abundance, that abundance mindset, through vulnerability, and through taking initiative, one step at a time, because remember, I had lost the ability to walk. I had to take it one step at a time. You can change lives, change the world. You can do the impossible. So I ask you, when you find your passion, when you find where it is that you want to contribute in this world, how is it that you're going to approach that? Is it going to be with a proprietary mindset that you can tackle it yourself, that you don't need others, you don't need collaboration? Or is it through open source values that you're going to make a difference? And I ask you, please keep your contributions open. Thank you.